Shaved almonds, shaped and perfect, and old Lincoln logs built and fallen. Crying, silent, the dark and the holes to china, dolls and Legos, learning which ones belong to me. Why am I handsome and not pretty? Hexagonal shapes, coming to life, as little men that walk around and play with my mind. Leaving before there is anything to remember, nothing concrete, abstract feelings and silly thoughts, horse manure and robberies, bitten jackets and wide open fields, naive thoughts and coming attractions, the fact that these will only make sense to me.
The desert stretches on, never ending, flat, motionless land. The only sound is the howling wind, spitting sand in my eyes, as if telling me to leave. I am unwelcome. I hike my pack higher up my shoulder as I trudge on, my boots an unsightly yellow-brown color from all the dust. My heart aches from loneliness, and my throat from lack of water. I continue walking because it's all I know now. No destination, just my body, my pack, and the sand under my boots. The midday sun scorches the back of my neck, biting and clawing until the skin is red and blistered and no longer resembles skin. The horizon begins to waver, the sand playing tricks with my eyes. I think I'm finished. I try to remember the taste of water and lick my parched lips. I fall, but I don't feel myself fall. I feel light. I sit on the air and watch my body hit the ground. The hands are first to go. They begin to crumble to dust. The rest of the body, my body, soon follows. The dust joins the sand and is picked up by the howling wind. Thank you.
Venus sitting high up in a tree, nonchalantly munching acorns, when suddenly a cat climbed the tree and started to chase me. So I jumped down from the tree and ran as fast as I could on my tiny brown legs towards my room, a little hole in the ground, away from a big white monster. And then when I finally got to my hole, the ginger cat caught me and ripped out my hair, and then yanked my acorns away from me, which sucked, because that was my acorn stock for this entire week, and I wouldn't be able to restock anytime soon. And also, I didn't have long hair to begin with, so now I would have bald patches all over my body. Then, after the cat was finished with attacking my small, innocent body, he walked away satisfied, leaving me in my tiny dirt hole with no acorns or happiness. Until I found a girl walking towards me on her little brown legs, holding so many acorns in her tiny hands, and staring at me through those big, brown, beady eyes as if she was trying to peer into the inner darkness of my squirrely soul. And out of nowhere, I heard a screech come from the great white monster that could only belong to a human. Stop pretending you're a squirrel and come eat your dinner!
It's precious, like diamonds. Yet, we waste it. I really don't know why. Yesterday, time meant nothing to me. It slipped by like sand in between my toes. That was before the riots on the Place de Bourgeois, the Boulevard Saint-Germain, the Champs-Élysées. I can hear car horns blaring and shots being fired as the chaos moves towards our family's tiny flat in the right bank. I'm staring at a wall, tired, hungry, and bored. My little brother Jacques has been gazing, glassy-eyed, out of the window. He rests his gaze on the overturned trash can in the street, hoping, waiting for anything. Now all we have left are the spaces between the seconds for comfort. My mother, Maria, is an obstinate woman. She refuses to let us play outside without jackets in the winter, and insists on sunscreen in the summer, even though I'm turning 15. I am brought back to reality by her racking cough. Jamie, what, Mama? I need more medicine, Chevy. Mama, you finished it. What will we do? Don't worry, Chevy. I'll be fine. I just need some air. My mother approaches the window and pokes her nose through the crack. Stop, Mama. You could be hit by a stray bullet, Jacques yells. Jacques, the riot's supposed to be miles away. The chances of being hit by a bullet are virtually none, I retort with my trademark wit. My mother hacks and coughs. She is getting worse as I am getting nervous. She needs my help. Now. Thank you.
no Abraham, no forbidden taste in love, no binding promised choice. There would be no bus skeletons, bent rubber, empty guns. With no Abraham, there would be a Moses without purpose, a Red Sea forever tainted, pyramids built by friends, a man plotting what to do with his Saturday and Sunday and Friday and Thursday, no place to worship, no God, no connection. But even with Abraham, these things can be hidden. With no Abraham, there would be no schnitzel, no ima to make schnitzel, no bayit or hechshers, no hamantashen, no assimilation fighting tradition, dressed in the same jeans, whose ancestors once were in love, able to love. No, never again, for there never was. Bombings in a land, our land, death, another young shield, bloody child, grave, neighbors with Konosenish, welcome to Mount Herzl. With no Abraham, Chaim Potok would have no inspiration. Empty books, no prayer, fewer chairs raised, a napkin between two lovers' hands. With no Abraham, there would be no kippah or scapegoat or fear of kafiyas in airports. No hatred, no fuel for hatred, 1,000 stars, just stars, not nation. No sharp claims of nation. No green uniform, green line, draft hatikva, redraft hatikva. Just people, not chosen, but there. Not purpose, not commandment, no aspiration for coexistence. These people don't know, can't understand that sometimes the blood is worth it. Sometimes we believe.
The broken screen door slammed behind me. Standing at the bare table near the pantry, I dragged my hand across the familiar wood. Every groove and ridge made by the blade of a knife Ma used to save for future apple pies. When the days were too hot to make sweets that made bugs swarm around the hole in the screen door, Ma and I would run in the daisy fields out front, like the land would give us glory. Each of our bare feet, calloused and striped by the sun, crushed down on top of the baby flower pot. When Ma got sick, the first thing she said to me was, "I'll cook my fruity sweets till I got dough fingers." Then we laughed. It was too hot for pie that day, so we drank ice water and let it sweat on our table until the puddles looked like moats around our glasses and the woodcut marks filled with condensation. The sickness took Ma's daisy feet first. Her veins got big, her heat-baked skin pale. Ma's skin was a clear jar, her blue blood like tiny oxygen streams. 2 pie seasons passed, each coming with the bloom of fruit and leaving with the decline of Ma's arms and legs, neck and torso. The night Ma lost her hand, she asked me to dig a pie knife into our wood table. When I turned from the pantry to our open door, our eyes played hide and seek, never finding each other at the same time. But I heard her whisper softly, "A final slice." That night, the moon looked like pie, and I dreamt of the jar vase on the table, still holding yesterday's giant daisies.
Then someone shifts, and the bleachers creak. Somewhere, a muffled sob is heard. "Oh my God, I had no idea," are whispered and echoed the vast silence in the gym, bouncing off the polished wood floor, the high ceiling. A girl bursts into tears, her shoulders shaking with the force of her sobs. Next to her, the girl's friend puts an arm around her. There's nothing else to do. The teachers all stare wordlessly. Some shake their heads. Somewhere, someone says that they should have known. Argument ripples through the crowd. 256 students, 23 teachers, 19 staff, all sitting in the cavernous room. People sit beside others they had never even said hello to before now. Everyone reaches over, whispering to strangers, hugging friends, asking how something like this could happen. The room is very warm. The sun shines brightly upon the dismal scene. Finally, one person turns and walks out. More follow, trickling out in groups of 2 or 3. As soon as they pass the doorway, they begin to talk normally again, their voices bouncing off the concrete hallway. The ones inside say exactly where they have been, moving only to comfort one another. One girl asks why. No one answers her. Another girl starts to cry and runs from the room. Her sobs echo down the hallway, like the fading chatter of her classmates. Finally, the last of the people walk out in one large group. Many lean on each other for support and comfort. The girl who asks why doesn't cry like the others. She sniffs as she hugs them and lets them cry on her shoulder. Once everyone but her is in the hall, she tells them to go ahead, that she'll be right behind them. Once they're out of sight, her small smile disappears and she drops to her knees. Her body is racked with silent sobs. Why? She chokes out. Why?
You shouldn't. Don't do that. This list of everything you aren't able to do is never ending. People will say that you have limitations. They'll say, now child, there are many things you can't do. There are many places in your mind that don't exist out here. They'll call the place they live the real world and tell you if you don't live there too, you need to grow up. Well, listen to me now. Those people, they're wrong. You think I'm naive, don't you? Oh yes, a realist. You know, one of those people who don't believe in anything they haven't seen with their own eyes, and even then, if it's not written in a textbook, you still might not believe it. But I've gone into the forest of hopes and dreams, looking for a fairy godmother. Instead, I found that a hug can accomplish more than a spell, that a letter that I miss you, come home soon, that honey, don't you ever forget how much I love you, can bring a person to tears faster than the Hulk's strongest punch, that in the forest comes a stronger magic than anything I've ever mustered from my magic wand, and trust me, I've tried. I've brought the pirates, the lingering souls with no home, the unicorns, and the talking zebras to life. All who found comfort sleeping in the jungle of my imagination, I freed them with my pencil. But they don't compare to your eyes when you look at my tear-stained face and say, family matters most, but good friends, well, they matter a heck of a lot too. And I've explored the stream of consciousness and the river of unconsciousness. The river might be thicker, it might be choppier, but both journeys taught me that you can't spend all of your time wishing, because as much water as you seem to have, it will slip right through your fingers in a current you can't change. The water keeps flowing, even if it has to dodge the boulders, because the goal is always the same. And you'll keep moving, because even the biggest boulder gets worn down by the water's persistence. My travels have been called impossible, but you know what? At one point, a man on the moon was crazy talk. Washington would have been confused upon hearing the word airplane. And you? Well, you still don't believe in magic, do you? I want you to visit the forest, drink from the stream, swim in the river, and let yourself believe, because I've also been to the stars, and you should know, they are not balls of gas. Thank you.
Of living in the city, for her, are the elevators. People always tried to shove in. People, too many people, pressing against her, making an already too small space smaller, 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 until her breath is short, chest heaving for each small intake of air. Her body quivers. It feels like her ribcage is closing in, squeezing her lungs until there is no air left. Every breath is loud, so loud, gasps, because if she just breathes, there isn't enough air. Her hands clench into fists, but that doesn't stop the shaking, the endless shaking. She usually takes the stairs. The classroom was already too small, and now she is seated in the middle seat of the middle row, on the left, on the right, in front, in back, blocking her air until it is hard to breathe, breathe, breathe. It is only one period, 45 minutes. You can handle it, but she isn't rational. Skin crawls as if a bug is dancing along her back, her arms, her stomach. And her chest feels tight, as if someone had just decided to grab her upper body and squeeze. She wants to scream, but she couldn't, because there is no air, no air, no air, no in, out, in, out, in, out, no even breaths. It came out too fast, her body unable to keep up with itself. She gets a different seat. School bus. A metal tube of death painted that happy yellow color in an effort to fool her. The bus itself is bad enough. The window seat, unbearable. Knees touching the seat in front, back touching her seat, person to one side, metal wall to the other, seat below, metal roof too close above, all blocking the air, sweet air, from entering her vicinity, let alone her lungs. Lungs aren't working, aren't doing what they're supposed to, won't let in air, won't let out air, just heavy, too heavy, weighing down her chest as it heaves painfully, trying to force the useless lungs to do their job. I'll sit next to you, but you take the inside. Thank you.
In my head, and I cry out for you, reach for you, but you're not there. My cheeks catch tears. I think of how you hugged me, teased me, taught me. I lament for the grandfather I could have known, could have heard stories from, could have spent time with. I lament that you only needed us, only reached out, only showed you cared in that last year. When you wanted visitors, you reached for us. When you were lonely, you reached for us. But what about when we wanted you? I remember when I said goodbye. I hugged you, held your hand, said goodbye with a kiss, and walked away, only to repeat the process with tears streaming down my face. Not allowing myself to let you go, not just yet. I remember the funeral, trying to feel sad enough to cry, but not reaching it. I remember the shovel, carrying the dirt, hearing the thud of Jewish tradition and unexpressed feelings hitting the wood. It broke the dam of why. Why did you make fun of us? I got contacts for you. Why? Ben lost weight for you. But why? The loving grandfather I always wanted you to be came out that last year? Because you realized life wasn't forever. Your hard exterior that never let people in, never let me in, wasn't worth keeping up when you knew you'd be gone soon. I cried when the dirt hit the wood, cried for you, for me, wishing I had known you better, wishing we had seen your loving side more, wishing you didn't have to go that way. And I washed my hands, scrubbing the sofa, scrubbing it, won't come off. I was looking for something beneath the layers, scrubbing it off, the sadness, the skin. I was looking for you. I just couldn't reach you yet, at least not in this layer.
In the sea. She cried from nothing at 4 p.m. and later found out that her aunt had given her life away to cancer cells that same day, that same time. She thought that it was peculiar to have those kinds of feelings, the ones like they have in movies, subconscious but somehow perfectly timed. Between sobs, she thought of her aunt, who, as far as she knew, had been in the hospital for the last couple months. She'd been overhearing her parents talk about her aunt's situation, and it hadn't seemed to be getting any better. But she had been trying to convince herself that her aunt was going to be all right. She kept imagining her aunt resting at home and friends going in to visit. Her parents had been meaning to talk to her about it, but they couldn't. She appreciated their secrecy, because she knew they didn't want to see her downhearted. They'd been trying to stay calm and pretend that they were enjoying life even after they got back home from the hospital, but she knew and she felt the sadness. It poured out of her with her tears. She scattered the ashes on Monday, her least favorite day. She'd run out of tears, but her whole body shook, and she could feel the pain from her heart radiating through her veins. She dropped a handful of the chalky dust into the sea. It was right after her aunt's funeral when she found out she had won the lottery, a ticket she had bought weeks ago, but had forgotten after her aunt's situation. It seemed absurd to think about money when someone she loved was in pain. She kept reminding herself that her chances of winning were 1 in a million, and somehow she had been the lucky one. When she got the money, she did nothing. She held the check in her hand and wished it had been her aunt's luck instead of hers. She took one of the Shabbat candles from the cabinet across from the dinner table. Check in hand, she lit a single corner and watched the check disintegrate, the smell of corporate paper filling her nose. The ashes piled. She wanted so badly for her aunt to have the luck she never had. She'd scattered the ashes when she got the chance. Maybe the luck would reach her aunt when body and luck met in the sea. Thank you.
Sometimes I think we're alone. Sometimes I think we're not. Either way, the thought is staggering. R. Buckminster Fuller. I want there to be more, he says, arm grandly sweeping the foggy sky, feet that begins through sedge. 1, 2, 1, 1, 2. More to this, the world, the universe. I can see it, it's sort of a rant. It's in the way he clenches his fingers, bites his lip, tries to look as grandiose as a gamely teenager possibly can. I wish that we aren't the only ones, Allie. That somewhere out there, somewhere, I don't give a fuck if it's 100 light years away or a million, there's someone sitting on a rooftop with their best friend discussing why life sucks. It's not just us, the two of us, the city, this country, this earth. Because if it is, Allie, that's lonely as hell. I think there is, I say quietly. I think somewhere in the billions or trillions or quadrillions of stars, no, not those, they're dying and dead, I can't remember. Somewhere out there, people exist. Maybe not our kind of people, not quite, but the kind of people that would wear different colored shoes every day, or misuse pretentious words, or sit on a rooftop with their best friend and talk about how life screwed them over. And maybe they're the kind of people who juggle tomatoes and collect watches and fall in love with pompous boys that live next door. Maybe they're the kind of people who stare at the stars, a celestial graveyard of sorts, and wish for there's something more. But maybe there's nothing, Sam, I say. Maybe there's nothing, and we're all alone. And is that really such a terrible thought? Not to inflate your already overgrown ego, but what if it's only us? What if there are only two people sitting atop our houses and wishing we were anywhere else? Maybe it's lonely as hell, but there's also something wonderful, exciting, special. What if we are the only ones, Sam? Would that really be so bad? He stares at me, stunned to silence for one rare moment. He's the one for monologues, for rants, for crazy dreams. I'm supposed to be the one for realism and practicality, and why are you still talking? I'm supposed to be. Always the optimist, he manages finally. And there's a smile, a small smile, and a pat beside him, an invitation. I take it, scooting nearer to the 1-2, 1-1-2 times his feet on the roof's faded edge. Me in a nutshell, I say. And now he smiles wider, a real smile, says, "You know what?" "What?" I ask. "I like your idea." "I like it too." And that's all. We know there's beds and school and parents and that shitty thing called life, but we don't return to it, not just yet. Right now, right this moment, we simply sit, toss our feet, gaze at the stars. We think of a million other Allies and Sams with a million other problems, and we think of just Allie and Sam with their thudding feet and dramatic speeches. And in this now, in this moment, it's wonderful to think that we could be two of many, or the only ones in the world. Thank you.
And I'll be reading a story called The Gypsy Student. The nun walked down the hill. The sky was heavy and dark, with clouds that blocked the sun. This is how life at the monastery always was. Wake up at 5 a.m., pray, eat, go to your missions. The nun was a shepherd. Her life was monotonous, dull, when she thought it's the closest to God we can get. The hill was covered with fresh grass and rich green pine trees, and so were all the hills around. Far over the distant hills she could see some sun rays breaking from the seams of the clouds. The nun was responsible for the old monastery's 3 goats. She sang, just for fun, to pass the time, and her voice would accompany the sounds of nature, whether it was breeze in her ears, rain, birds singing, or just the leaves crunching in the wind. She thought the monastery lacked singing. She avoided us thinking about the excessive prayers, about some aspects of the blind devotion to God, because they left her feeling hollow. From the corner of her eye, she thought she saw someone coming down the nearby slope. How strange, she thought to herself, as no one ever came to this area. She looked again, and she really had seen a person there. Curious, she approached the girl, her long dress painted with red flowers. Her golden locks fell below her shoulders. She was also singing, but at the same time she was dancing, her dress twirling, creating a whirlpool of fabric and flowers. "Who are you?" asked the nun, not sure whether she was afraid or delighted by the stranger. "I'm Ingrid," the girl sang, weaving her name into the song and stopping her tune. "And who are you?" she added in the same manner. "Sister Agatha. How did you get here?" The strange girl continued dancing and singing. Agatha thought her to be around 16 years old. Oh, how she missed those times, but they were times of sin and therefore she could not express a wish to experience them again. "My family travels," the girl finally answered. "My father is a tradesman." The girl sat on the ground and saw that Sister Agatha. The ghosts were still inside, so there was nothing to worry about. "Do you sing a lot?" "I do, to be honest," the girl answered. She played with the grass in which she was sitting, hummed a curious melody, and moved her body as she was sitting, as if dancing to her own tune. Agatha was fascinated. "Tell me, dear, to which church do you belong?" The girl laughed and answered, "I don't belong to any church." Sister Agatha was shocked, appalled, and stared at the girl. "I'll leave her where I want to." She felt Ingrid's hand grasping her arm, pulling her up. "Come with me, I will show you." Agatha tried to pull her hand away, but she couldn't resist the girl's song. Ingrid walked faster and faster until she started running up and down the hills, skipping, holding Agatha by the hand, making her run and jump just as she did. After a few minutes, Ingrid landed elegantly on the grass, and so did Agatha. "Can you feel the grass beneath you?" Agatha nodded. "Look up. See how thick the clouds are. They're guarding us from things unknown. They keep us in our world." The two women stayed quiet for some time. "Breathe the air. Don't just use it. Feel it, enjoy it. The trees there. Someone might have carved their initials into them. For them to carve these initials, they had to go through so much. Feeling how they fell in love, telling it to each other, and in the end expressing it by carving it into that tree that will hold their memory long after they don't love each other and won't even live." Agatha breathed slowly, fascinated by the fresh color of the word now wore, seeing things through different eyes. A word not dull, always new, always changing. Agatha felt the grass beneath her, the sun shining, the wind blowing in her ears. She was full, sickened by everything she loved until 10 minutes ago. "I don't like my name," she said. "Then choose a different one." Agatha was shocked by the simplicity. "I want to go by Athena," she said quietly. Ingrid looked at her and nodded. Then he stood up. The girl kissed Athena on her cheek and skipped to the other direction, humming a new and exciting melody.
I thought the day I had my first child would be one of the happiest of my life. People say one glance is all it takes to fall in love. What they don't tell you is it also takes only one glance to fall out of it. For months, I had nurtured this being inside of me. Yet now, looking at my daughter's twisted red face and bald head, I felt nothing but disgust. She looked grotesque, inhuman, surely not like something I had helped create. But she was mine. I had felt her kicking in my stomach, day in and day out, a painful reminder of what was happening inside my body. I had watched her grow, watched my uterus expand, stretch, expand again. I had watched as stretch marks marred my smooth skin. And this thing was what I had been waiting for all those months. This tiny person was my hard-earned reward, but I didn't want it. I didn't want her. This crying, slimy, wet mass of flesh was not meant for me. She was an object. Frankly, I didn't deserve her anyway. I would be a horrible mother. The only way I could take my daughter home was by pretending she was a doll. One of those plastic ones I used to beg my mom for at the toy store, whose wide baby eyes forever stared back at me. I couldn't look at her face. She was swaddled in a blanket, a lump in a car seat. Thankfully, she was asleep, and I prayed that would last until I could safely put her in her crib in the nursery and lock the door. She just couldn't be mine. She couldn't be. I hadn't been the one lying in that hospital bed, laboring for hours. That wasn't me. I would have loved my daughter. This was a stranger's baby. My baby would have smiled at me. She would have cooed in a cute baby voice and whispered "Mama" in my ear. No one said she would be like this. A needy, smelly, crying thing. I couldn't do this. What about me? What about when I cried, or felt sick, or had to go to the bathroom? I was important too. I wanted to be cuddled and sung to and rocked to sleep. I wanted love. My boyfriend had left me the day I told him I was pregnant. He said it was my fault. How could you let this happen? He screamed, his eyes bulging in anger. It wasn't me, I just said. It wasn't me. He left the next morning. After that, it was just me. Just me and my alien baby. That's what I thought of when I looked at the ultrasound. A mini Martian. But I tried to love it, because it was part of him, the man I loved, the one who left me. And because it was part of me, too. And if I didn't try to love it, I couldn't love myself. I wanted so much to care for her, to cherish her, to see beyond the colic and the crying. But I couldn't. I could not. I shouldn't have to. Her father had left her. Well, so could I. My thoughts fled to the pond I had beside my little one-bedroom flat. A small pond, but a deep one. One that no one would think to check. It was murky, full of grime and dirt and green algae. No one would know. No one would have to know. After, I would leave. I would run away. She wasn't mine anyway. I had been keeping her in the crib. It was the only place I felt she could be contained. She was just too much. I couldn't take the constant knowledge that there was another part of me in this world. I had to make it stop. I waited for a night when it was dark. I mean, really dark. Only a small sliver of moon was in the sky. I weighted her down with rocks. She would sink. I knew she would. She wasn't mine, so it wasn't bad to do this. Her small form sunk fast, and as I looked at the murky water, I finally felt free again. There was only enough room for one of me in this world. Only one. Thank you.